Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard and California Fruit and Vegetable magazines, reporting to you from the annual conference of the California Fresh Fruit Association, this year held in beautiful Half Moon Bay. Here with Adam Borchard, having a great conference. He's the Director of Government Relations for the Fresh Fruit Association, and wanted to talk with you particularly today about fruit fly populations. This past year really spiked, and it seems like it was very much weather related. Also, from a pest management standpoint, our hands are becoming more and more tied each year as far as our ability to spray, not just with the regulations, but the cost has made things really, a lot more difficult to justify purchasing, spraying. And we're talking about the citrus industry is impacted, the tree fruit, table grapes, and multiple species of fruit flies. Can you tell us about this issue?
Yeah, so just to kind of break it down into a couple of different parts. So particularly for the specialty crop industry, such as in California, where we have over 400 agricultural commodities, we have very narrowly tailored chemicals that we can use as inputs for our agricultural production. So it is really important to make sure that we have products that are current on the registration, and that we're able to add additional products as they become more environmentally sustainable and more targeted towards certain pests. You mentioned fruit flies. Last year, and it was beginning in the summer, we started seeing some record spikes of fruit fly detections across California, to the extent that by January 1st, we saw about over 1,000 fruit fly detections in California, which was double the previous all-time record. And another thing to note is, while California in the past has dealt with the Mediterranean fruit fly, this year, or this past season, we saw multiple species of fruit flies in California, some that were detected for the first time ever in the Western Hemisphere. So it wasn't just the Mediterranean fruit fly, it was the Tao fruit fly, Queensland, and Oriental fruit flies. So it is a big concern, and certainly with the impacts of Hurricane Hilary that hit California mid to late August of last year, and then other related events, and the anticipation that we'll see more sporadic weather events that impacts our production. It's going to be really important that we have a nimble and robust pest regime, pest control, detection, surveillance, monitoring, and quarantine regime moving forward. So I do have to give a lot of credit to the California Department of Food and Ag and the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. In the most recent report to stakeholders, they noted that there were zero fruit fly detections in California in the last 2 weeks leading up to March 8th, which is great news. It means hopefully that some of the change of the weather towards the colder months of winter could have helped really control these tropical invasive pests that aren't used to temperatures getting below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So, but it is still a concern, particularly in Southern California. We want to make sure that CDFA and USDA have the resources they have. We're grateful that USDA allocated $100 million last year to help out with the fruit fly control containment issue in California. That's on top of what the governor has currently allocated in the next a state budget for the fiscal year of $22 million. More is definitely needed, but we're grateful that there is recognition by our federal and state partners that it is a serious concern to control these invasive pests, and particularly because California is very dependent on international trade. We pride ourselves in our ability to feed not only our state, but the country and the world. And having invasive pests in California, such as the fruit flies that we've seen the past year, could potentially jeopardize our trade status. So we want to make sure that we have robust pest control regimes and practices in place so we can continue to do what California agriculture and California farmers do best, which is produce some of the most nutritious and fresh produce in the world.
That's great. In California, like you said, the CDFA has done a great job. I think if you compare to other states in the nation, as far as keeping out and really quarantining and watching out for pests. Not being able to bring in certain foods, when you come across the border or get off the airplane. They've been very diligent in making sure that those kind of things don't slip through the cracks. So I know spotted lanternfly has been a huge concern and focus. The Asian citrus psyllid, causing citrus greening. That's something that's been on the radar. But bringing these fruit flies onto the radar this past year or after this past season with the damage that occurred. I mean, Hurricane Hilary opened up all these wounds in the fruit that just was a haven for these fruit flies to multiply. And so if we go moving into this season, if the winter knocked them out, that's great, but we really don't know. I guess the season will tell. So
I'll just to add on that, it hasn't been determined that Hurricane Hilary did cause or enable the fruit fly detections in California, the infestation. So I don't want to necessarily say that Hurricane Hilary was a cause, but certainly our state and federal partners and our research institutions, academic institutions are going to be doing analyses and reports on what the likely culprits are. We're definitely now emerging finally out of the COVID-19 restrictions on trade, and on passenger travel. So there's definitely a concern that with increased trade through our ports of entry, such as the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles and other ports along the West Coast, increased air traffic, that we just need to make sure we have robust surveillance systems in place. And it also depends a lot on the consumers too. Like if we do need people to respect, quarantine and other restrictions in place. So we urge people not to bring foreign fruit, contraband fruit into the country to make sure that, that they're doing their part to make sure that we keep our pest control systems up to speed and agriculture compliant.
All right, well, thank you, Adam, for your work with the California Fresh Fruit Association, making sure that comes to the attention of the powers that be, and hopefully this year we won't have another fruit fly invasion. So thank you very much. Read more about these things in our publications. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.